everybody, Zach here from Primrose Productions Music. Today I want to talk to you guys about 5 steps to perfect mixes. This is just going to be really simple, bullet points basically, and we're just going to go through it. This is the formula, I guess, that I use every single time that I do a mix. This is the order in which I'm doing things, and it helps me get great mixes. So I just want to pass this information on to you, because I know when I was younger and was still figuring shit out, there was a lot of misinformation out there about what you should do when during the mixing process. So I just kind of want to set the record straight with that and give you a really simple framework to follow when you're going into your mixes. Anyway, let's jump right into it. So the first step to the mixing process is obviously you want to set up your mix session. This is going to be when you're importing all of your audio files into the session. You're going to be routing everything, making sure the routing's correct. So you're going to want to send all your drum tracks to a drum bus and all your guitar tracks to a guitar bus, and then all of those summed buses to an ultimate mix bus in the session, so everything's coming out of the same track at the end. And then you're also going to do things like importing your tempo map. Make sure that you have a tempo map lined up to the track that you're working with, so that any delays that you have set to certain tempos like quarter notes or eighth notes or whatever delays, so that those actually work correctly with the time of the track, and everything from there on is just going to make a lot of things later on easier if you have a tempo map imported. The second thing that you are going to do is you are going to get an overall levels mix for the instruments before you touch a single plugin. I cannot stress this enough. Do not touch any plugins yet. You want to go through and mix the track. I generally go through by instrument, so I'll level all the drum tracks and get like a drum mix. Again, this is just levels. This isn't plugins at all. No processing, just setting the overall volume for the tracks. So I set the drum levels first, then I bring in the bass, then I'll bring in the rhythm guitars, the lead guitars, any piano or key or synth tracks, and then lead vocals, and then harmonies, and then any extra effects and stuff after that you have like pre-programmed, like if you have like wind sounds or things like that, that just bring all those in one by one and get an overall level mix for the track. Basically, you want to get the mix as close as you possibly can to done before you touch a single plugin. Once you've done that, once you have all your levels set, the third thing you are going to do is you are going to start addressing specific problems with plugins. You're just going to listen with your ears and you're going to hear what sounds off, what needs improvement. So for example, if you think the kick needs to be a bit punchier, then you can go to the kick track and you can open up an EQ and a compressor and set levels and do whatever kind of processing you need to do to get that kick punching through the way you want it to. Then once that first thing that you hear is addressed, and make sure that you're doing it this way. You want to do whatever is sticking out the most to you first. Solve that problem. Once that problem's solved, you'll move on to the next most prominent problem. Let's say you just fixed the kick. Now you hear the vocals are kind of, losing it somewhere in the mix because they're not compressed heavily enough. So then you can go fix the vocal compression, things like that. Let's say the guitar solo isn't cutting through. You can go throw some EQ on there, maybe some compression, whatever. Point is, you want to be listening carefully for specific problems, and then you want to address that problem. Whatever you have to do at this point with plugins to fix that specific problem is fine. Do what you have to do plugin wise for that problem, but it's very important that you go one by one through the problems that you're hearing as you're hearing them. Now, once you've added all your plugins, you've addressed all the problems, and you have everything sounding pretty much the way you want the overall mix to sound, now we're gonna start just adding that little extra bit to bring your mix to the next level. Step 4 is you are going to start adding effects and mix bus processing to accentuate the best parts of your track. This is where you're gonna start adding things like delays and reverbs and things like that. So, if you wanna bring in some delay on the vocals, make it sound a little fuller, maybe some reverb on the snare, maybe your guitar solo needs some reverb or some delay or both, things like that. And then you're also gonna do some processing on the mix bus And a lot of people do the mix box processing earlier on, but I like to wait till the end because I feel like it just helps me add that little extra bit a lot easier. The thing with the mix bus processing is all the tracks are routed to the mix bus. So obviously anything that you do on the mix bus is going to be affecting all the tracks. So very small moves on the mix bus make very big differences. And that's why a lot of people will do the mix bus processing before anything else, because they can solve larger problems easier. But I like to do it the other way around. I like to do the mix bus processing at the end, because at that point, once you have the mix pretty much where you want it, very small moves are really just gonna give the smallest push, but it's the kind of push that just fills out everything, gives everything more energy faster, and you can really hear your mix go from what you thought was great and was pretty much finished to something that's like even more amazing than it was 5 minutes ago, just by making a couple small moves on the mix bus. Now, at this point, most people would say the mix is done, but there's one more step in the mixing process. Step number 5 is adding automation to accentuate different things, add some flavor and some excitement to certain sections in the track. Let's say you want to add like a telephone effect on the vocals in one verse. This is where you'll go in and do that just to give it a little extra spice there. Let's say you want to cut the delay down a little bit, just move the delay volume down in a certain section, or boost it up at the end of a section. Let's say at the end of a chorus you want a little bit of an extra delay tail. You can automate that in and do that. You can also do what I do and actually automate the volume on the mix bus. And this is something that I like to do all the time because, again, small moves on the mix bus make big differences in the whole track. So I'll often go through on the mix bus and automate the volume on there to just bump up the volume a little bit in the chorus, maybe a little bit more in the bridge, and just small volume changes can really change the overall feel of the track. So doing that on the mix bus is really cool. But yeah, this whole part is where you're going to go through and do all the automation just to add the little extra excitement pieces throughout the mix, the things that are going to make your mix more interesting, so you're not just having like a static standard mix sounding exactly the same all the way through. So that's it, guys. Those are the 5 steps that I use every time to create amazing mixes. It's a really simple formula to go through, and it's an easy way to keep yourself on track and make sure that you have a repeatable process so that every time that you mix, you just follow this process the same way, and it'll make your mixes more consistent overall just by following the same steps every single time. And to make this easier for you, I've actually compiled this into a PDF checklist that you can go download, and you can print out a couple copies, and the next few mixes you go through, you can literally go through the checklist and check things off as you go to make sure that you're following the process. Do that a couple times so that you get used to the process. And then once you know the process like the back of your hand, because you've done it so many times, you don't need to print them out anymore and check it off. But anyway, you can go download that checklist at primroseproductionsmusic.com/mix-checklist. Anyway, that's it, guys. It was a really short video, but I hope you found it really helpful. I hope you enjoy that checklist that I made for you. Hopefully that helps you get into more of a rhythm and makes it so you can create more consistent mixes every single time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.